Paul Ryan has the most comprehensive budget plan for the Republicans. In fact, his is the one that they passed over and over again. And Romney has praised it to no end before. So I thought it should be very relevant for you guys what the plan of the new vice presidential nominee for the Republicans is. Well, here's what it would do. First of all, by 2050, it would shrink the government by to 15% of the economy. Now, that's the smallest government since 1950. Now, if you're a Republican or a conservative, you might be thinking, oh, fantastic. But here's the part that you should know. In 1950, there was no Medicare, there was no Medicaid, and Social Security was tiny. It was 3% of defense spending overall. So now we have giant Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. If you're going to bring us the same percentage of GDP as back then, that means you're going to have to slash almost every other program. In fact, that's exactly what he does. Let me give you the specifics. Once you take out his defense spending, discretionary spending, not Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or defense, everything else would be, at best, 0.75% of GDP. Now, that's a tiny, tiny number, but you might be wondering, well, give me context. What does that mean? To give you a sense, the veteran programs we have now, which is just a small part of that discretionary spending, is right now 1% of GDP. So he would lose every other program and still wouldn't be able to fund veterans programs just by itself. What'll happen? I thought you loved veterans. So here are all of the things he would have to cut to basically zero. Food stamps, okay. They think, yeah, screw the poor, who cares, right? Border Patrol, what happened? The Mexicans are coming, there's no Border Patrol. And so are the Canadians. FDA, you know what? You got your drug or your food that's poisoned, so what? Doesn't exist. FAA, good luck landing your planes. There's no money in the budget for it. FBI, good luck catching terrorists. Gone, obliterated. Now, you want to see the specific cuts that he has already proposed. Transportation, cut by 40%. Education and training, 40% cut. Income security programs for the poor, of course, 30% cut. Veterans, 24% cut. But are you ready for this? For the non-defense programs overall, by the end of this program, if Paul Ryan gets his way, discretionary spending for all the things I just mentioned, FBI, FDA, etc., cut by 91%. That's insanity. Well, you know what that is? I know, ironically, it's Marxist, because it just says, okay, we'll let the government wither away and it won't exist and everybody will live in some sort of utopia because that's how human beings are. They just swell to each other and you don't need the government at all. That's what Karl Marx said. Apparently Paul Ryan agrees. You're going to get rid of 91% of discretionary spending? How the hell are we going to land the planes, you moron? This is unreal. Okay, where does he take the most amount of cuts? Of course, from the poor. People that are in lower incomes pay for 62% of his cuts. So it's not that the 62% of those programs are getting cut. No, much more. As I said, 91% of all the programs are getting cut. It's that 62% of his cuts come from the poorest Americans. This is reverse Robin Hood. It's exactly what President Obama was talking about with Romney, but this is on steroids. As Joan Walsh at Salon said, this is Ryan Hood. And this Ryan Hood is unreal. I'm not done yet. You remember Mitt Romney paid about $21 million, a little over $21 million in the 1 year that he's released so far of his tax returns in 2010? There it is, $21,661,344. If we put Paul Ryan's plan into effect, now I just told you about all the cuts, devastating all the programs. You know what else there is? There's the tax cuts. Gets rid of capital gains, gets rid of dividend. No, doesn't lower it, gets rid of them. You don't pay those taxes if you're rich. You know what those are? Rich people who invest, okay? Or everybody who invests. Now, if you're in the lower brackets or you're middle class, you might not have that much money to invest. If you're the Koch brothers, you're Sheldon Adelson, you got billions to invest, right? They already pay the lowest rate. They pay 15%, which is already an outrageous crime. Here's what you do with investing. I've done it. You press a button. You go, okay, I would like to invest in GE or GM, 15%. You bust your ass doing your job. Oh, give me money. Give me whatever it is, 25, 35, etc. Press a button, 15%. Under the Paul Ryan plan, 0%. Zero. So what would Mitt Romney pay? Since most of his money is already earned in just investment income, he would pay 0.82% under Paul Ryan's plan. Less than 1%. Look, it was already Unbelievably low at 13.9%. Now he says, no, not low enough. Mr. Romney, as he calls him, Mr. Romney, I will give you a 0.82% tax. You know what? Even Mitt Romney, when Newt Gingrich proposed this, was against it. Go to clip 15 here. Remember this happened in the debates? And Romney thought it was outrageous. Watch.
I have in my tax proposal an alternative flat tax on the Hong Kong model where you get to choose which you want, and our rate's 15%. So I'm prepared to describe my 15% flat tax as the Mitt Romney flat tax. I'd like to bring everybody else down to Mitt's rate, not try to bring him up to some other rate.
And may I ask just a question, Mr. Speaker? Is the tax on capital gains also 15% or is it zero?
Zero.
Well, under that plan, I'd have paid no taxes in the last 2 years.
Well, if you created enough jobs doing that, it was Alan Greenspan who first said, the best rate if you want to create jobs for capital gains is zero. My number one goal is to create a maximum number of jobs.
Ryan's plan is not a flat tax. The second part is identical to Gingrich's. Get rid of capital gains and dividends. Even Mitt Romney during the debates went like, really? I'd pay 0%? That seems like a bit much. Now, they did polling on this. That was opposition polling. Democrats were trying to figure out, hey, what's the best messaging on this, et cetera. It's Bill Burton at Priorities USA Action now. He's the guy who runs Obama's super PAC, right? But they would ask people, now, what do you think of this Paul Ryan plan? People wouldn't believe it. They say, oh, come on, that's not the real plan. Here's a quote. From the beginning when we polled, we found that the Ryan plan was the most toxic political document ever. But the problem was you couldn't convince voters that any politician would actually support it. They've come up with something so outrageous that you can't even get the voters to believe that they would propose such a thing. You're going to have this guy be your vice president, your role model for the president?